For most service-based companies, it's really critical you understand what resources you have and what needs to get done. And actually, even going beyond that, using AI to predict what needs to get done in the future based on an ever-changing market, and then what resources you're going to need to be able to match that.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Master Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Deirdre Martin. Today's episode is all about shedding light on the thrilling intersection of technology and business. We are delving into a truly transformative area, which is the application of AI in your business. Now, our guest speaker today is the eminent Daniel Hulme, CEO of Satalia and Chief AI Officer at WPP. His insightful perspectives on topics ranging from the allocation of work across your team using AI to developing digital twins of your employees have already stirred global conversations. So prepare to get inspired as we discuss AI's role in predicting your future work needs, the future needs of your business, improving employee well-being, enhancing customer experiences, and driving adaptivity in this rapidly changing world. Whether it's overcoming the bias in human decision-making or the concept of creating digital twins in the metaverse, Daniel will unpack the ethical, social, and safety challenges each area poses. Before we jump into this simulating and stimulating conversation, a quick reminder. If you enjoy the Master Your Business podcast, please rate it, give it a review, and subscribe. Your support allows us to bring you more crucial content for your business journey. And now, let's dive into the AI-driven future of business with Daniel Hulme. Daniel, it's amazing to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. We're here today, we're talking about AI, we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about solutions and strategies to help business owners really become efficient. So take the reins. Tell me where you want to go with this.
Well, I guess a little bit of background about me. I wear two hats. For the past 25 years, I've been involved in AI in academia. My undergraduate, my PhD, postdocs are all in AI. For about 4 years, I ran a master's program in UCL, which is one of the world's leading universities in AI, where I had hundreds of students going out there applying these technologies to helping organizations become more efficient and more effective. And I'm currently an entrepreneur in residence for UCL. So I help them take deep technology and figure out how to spin it out and create companies. I started a company 15 years ago that's been building AI solutions for some of the biggest companies in the world. We were acquired by WPP 2 years ago, which is the biggest media marketing company in the world, where I take on the Chief AI Officer role. And I guess I'm passionate about two things. One is how we could use technology and new organizational paradigms to remove friction from organizations. Organizations have a huge amount of friction. I believe they can operate much more efficiently and effectively. So I'm really passionate about being able to do that and reducing the cost of the creation and dissemination of goods. We can talk about that later if you like. But I'm also interested in how you can reinvent organizational structures to enable organizations to be more fluid. Usually when you start a company, and as you start to grow it, you end up creating layers of hierarchy, typically bureaucracy. And for the past 15 years, we've been thinking about how we can use AI, new organizational paradigms, to create a new operating system for companies to enable them to be much more liquid, much more adaptable.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there, right? Because first and foremost, frictionless experiences are exactly what customers want. If we introduce friction into any part of a customer journey, people are going to go where it's easier, right? So talk to me about that frictionless experience and how people can use AI in a service-based business to remove friction.
So actually, I think there are some frictions that are good. So there's a very good Harvard Business Review article on, it's called The Pyramid of Customer Value. And you'll see that human beings value different things. It's mapped to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. They value efficiency and speed and all that good stuff. But we also value things like nostalgia and connection and learning and self-actuation, giving back to the community. And actually, those frictions that you might want to introduce into that experience could generate value. So I guess the goal is to identify what frictions are frustrating, what frictions actually add value to that customer journey. And what AI can do is that AI can actually help understand how people feel and think much more nuanced than historically we've been able to do. Historically, we've just been looking at making things faster, better, and cheaper, but now we can bring a much richer set of experiences that heighten how we engage with goods and services. Now, with regards to service companies, one of the critical things that you need to do is understand your supply, understand your people, their skills, their hopes, dreams, desires, relationships with each other, etc., etc. You need to understand what work needs to get done. I know this sounds crazy, but most organizations actually don't really have a view or an understanding about what people they have and what skills and resources they have, and they have very little understanding in terms of the work that needs to get done. But there needs to be, you can use AI now to get a much better view of people and those different parameters, and also what work needs to get done. And then you can use AI to allocate people to work much more effectively. And I'm not just talking about allocating people to work to increase utilization, but you can allocate people to work to improve their well-being, to improve the customer experience, to reduce travel time if they're driving. So you can use AI to actually improve the KPIs across the entire business, not just one. And I've got several case studies I could share with you if you want me to go deeper on that. But I think for most service-based companies, it's really critical you understand what resources you have and what needs to get done. And actually, even going beyond that, using AI to predict what needs to get done in the future based on an ever-changing market, and then what resources you're going to need to be able to match that. One of my kind of critical tenets of organizational structures stems from the definition of intelligence, which is goal-directed adaptive behavior. So goal-directed in the sense you're trying to maximize profits or whatever. Behavior is how quickly you can do that, but the key word is adaptive. And I'm really passionate about building adaptive organizations, particularly in a radically changing world.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And I'm blown away by something you said at the start there as well, and that you carried through in terms of what you were talking about there. And that is how AI can help understand feelings and emotions and then work out the skill sets of people. How does that work? Let's just break that down for us non-AI people here.
Let me give you a couple of things that we do. So one is one of the things that we used to do before I realized it was illegal is that we used to get people in my company to make public recommendations of their salary. So everybody would declare publicly what they want to be paid, and then people would vote on whether their salary should be reduced or increased or kept the same. And we would use AI to determine how many votes one person has for another. So if I've worked very closely with you over the past year, if I'm very knowledgeable about your domain, I will have more votes for your salary than somebody else. Now the AI would choose the weighting of people's decision-making power, but it would be still down to the individual to decide whether salaries should be going up or down. And what we found is actually it uncovered a number of biases. So first of all, females tend to undervalue themselves. So we had females that were making recommendations for their salary, and then people swarming around saying, what are you talking about? You need to be paid more than that. Go away and come back with a different salary. And I guess in a more traditional organization, your manager would be quite happy about somebody undervaluing themselves because they've got more budget to allocate somewhere else. It can uncover biases in the system. It can uncover biases in individuals, and it helps you understand that where there's a delta, where there's a difference in opinion, that one person thinks you should be paid this, another person thinks you should be paid that. Where there's a delta, there's information that's missing, and so it helps you identify the information gaps that you can then fill, which usually comes down to human conversations. So that's one mechanism you can use is use AI to essentially weight people's decision-making ability for any decision, whether it be feedback or salaries or resourcing. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that organizations should identify the best group of people, the most diverse group of people, to be able to make the best decision, rather than those decisions being made in a hierarchy. The other thing that we do, and this is really only now being possible because of large language models that have only appeared over the past 9 months, is that we can, this is going to sound really creepy, but I promise you it's cool. We can take a large language model, and we can train that brain on all of the digital footprint an employee creates, their email, their Slack, their calendar, all of their different communications. So we can put all of that data inside these brains, and we can create a digital twin of employees. So we can create a digital twin of you, and we can now ask that digital twin, if I put you on this project, will you work well? If I put you on this team, will you thrive? Now, people feel a bit creeped out by that, but we're doing that for one of the biggest brands in the world, and it's working incredibly well. The employees have really embraced it. They understand now they have a mechanism that helps the organization make better decisions about their career and employment.
Oh my God, Myers-Briggs, eat your heart out. That sounds incredible.
And of course, these systems are fraught with bias, but so are human beings. And the question is it better than the alternative? And how can we make sure that the human being is in the loop where we know that AI is uncertain or not confident?
So the one thing that I haven't heard you say as you've spoken through that, because you did mention about understanding feelings, right? So feelings are emotions, and emotion and empathy is very important in my view as it comes to growing a business, growing a team, and working with clients. So how does AI tie in with empathy and emotion?
It's still a struggle for AI, but you can simulate how people feel about things. I could take all of the I don't know, the review data of a product or a movie and put it into a brain. And then I could ask that brain, how would you feel about this new movie that you've never seen before? And in theory, it will probably do a pretty good job of representing how the audience feels about that movie. Now, it's not having a feeling itself, but because it's learned about the signals, then it does a good representation. Of course, AIs don't feel because they don't have an embodiment and all that kind of stuff, but you can certainly simulate how people perceive and feel about content.
I love that. And I think that's really important too. And I think since ChatGPT has taken over or blown the world up in the last number of months, what have you seen in terms of AI in your own business and growth, and even in the university side of things? What has ChatGPT done to AI in that sense, Daniel?
I've been in the field for quite some time, and I've got a couple of views. One is I'm a little bit worried that over the past 7 years, people have been rebranding themselves as AI experts. And 7 years sounds like a long time, but you wouldn't necessarily get somebody that's just passed the bar to give you advice on complex legal issues. You would want real people that have been in the trenches for the past few decades. It's easy to kind of rebrand yourself and pick off headlines around AI and rebrand yourself as an AI expert and then give misadvice. But there is now a lot of excitement around large language models. Around 10 billion neurons, they started to do things that we didn't expect them to do, to be able to reason and kind of encapsulate language and all sorts of really cool things. But generative AI is just one of several technologies that have emerged over the past several decades. And I now look at AI not through technologies, not even through definitions, but over the past 2 years, I've been developing a framework that thinks of AI through its applications. So new algorithms, cloud, compute, and data have converged over the past several decades that allow us to do interesting things in our organizations. I think there are 6 interesting things, and each one of those different things have a different underpinning technology. So the first one, just very quickly, is task automation. Now, task automation gets a bad reputation in the AI community. It's using very simple algorithms to replace mundane, repetitive tasks that human beings are doing. But the fact is that very simple algorithms can drive a lot of value in your organizations. The second is content generation. And of course, now we all have the ability to generate content very quickly. And I've got different views around that, given that WPP generate a quarter of the world's content, and how to do that better. The third one is human representation. So we can get AIs to represent how humans think, feel, and replace a human being that's an interface with something that looks and behaves exactly like a human being.
Can I ask a question on that before you go on, right?
Sure.
So task automation makes complete sense. Content generation, again, agree with that. It can be helpful for brainstorming, ideation, but maybe not the full thing. That's my view. And the third part, human representation. So are you talking about like chatbots on websites and things like that? What else? What else is human representation?
So even avatars. Right now, you could be speaking to an avatar of Daniel, and Daniel could be in bed. So it's building.
Is it really you?
Who will know? Who will know? Again, ordinarily, I'd be talking about chatbots. I'd be talking about how we replace that human being that's an interface with something that looks and behaves exactly like a human being. And by the way, each of these different categories raise different ethical questions, social questions, safety questions. So if I'm replacing a human being with something that looks and behaves like a human being, should I declare that's not a human being? And actually, this industry needs to answer some of those questions. But what large language models allow you to do is represent how humans think and feel, not just the interface. So that's the third category.
And let
The
me
fourth
ask you
category,
then, no, before you move
yeah,
on, I'm not letting you move
that's
on till
okay.
you answer
That's
this.
all right.
So what's your view? Should we say that this was created by AI or that you're talking to AI? What's your view?
Yeah, I think we should absolutely declare it's a grey line, because I could take an image of somebody, a photograph of somebody, and I could doctor it so much that it becomes nothing like what that person looked like. But is that now an AI, or is it? Should I declare that it's not the original image? What's the line where something becomes not real? And again, that's what this industry is currently facing into. Again, raises lots of interesting philosophical, ethical challenges. But I think that we should be as transparent as possible with the public around content.
And another question on this that's just jumping into my mind is, let's imagine my ideal clients are, maybe I own a retirement home and my ideal clients are 70, 80 plus. And I'm not trying to be ageist here for anyone who's listening, but I'm just wondering, is it that you're seeing that Gen Zs are taking up the use of AI more? Or if I'm a chatbot and I say, I'm a chatbot, I want to help you, what is the interaction levels from people of different age ranges?
I think anecdotally, I suspect those people that interface with computers probably have an easier job of interfacing with AI. But again, not my domain. I would defer to I hope that we can tap into the creative capacity of people to come up with innovations that make AI much more available to the rest of the people around the world. The fourth category is insight extraction. And I guess this is what people have been calling AI for the past decade, which is using machine learning or data science to extract insights from data. I would argue controversially that extracting insights from data doesn't necessarily lead to better decision making. Humans are not typically very good at decision making. And I think there's actually been a misinvestment over the past decade of companies hiring data scientists, building data science infrastructures that actually won't lead to the value they expect. What's really powerful about machine learning and these modern techniques is that they can not only predict the world, they can explain why those correlations exist. So they can explain causation. And that is very valuable from a learning and decision-making perspective, because they can highlight things about the world that humans have just not spotted. So I make all of our systems explainable, not to adhere to regulation or to make sure that they are auditable, but because you learn a lot from how AIs perceive the world.
That's incredible, I think, Daniel, because we all strive to learn more about ourselves, but equally about our businesses. So yeah, kudos. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's not easy to build explainable systems. It's costly. It's time consuming, but I think it's going to become very important for most organizations. The fifth category is complex decision making. And if you're old enough, it used to be called operations research. It's optimization, it's discrete mathematics. It's a completely different field in computer science. Actually, I would argue your biggest win in most organizations applying complex algorithms to solving decision problems. And the example I always use is if you've got 5 staff members that you need to allocate to 5 jobs, there are 5 factorial, 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 possible ways of allocating 5 people to 5 jobs, 120 possible ways. If I've got 15 people to allocate to 15 jobs, I now have over 1 trillion ways. And so to expect a human to solve that problem, we're wasting our time. Anything more than 7, don't use a human for. If I've got 60 people to allocate to 60 jobs, there are more possible combinations than there are atoms in the universe. One of my clients has 5,000 people they need to allocate to jobs. So it's a very big number. And then historically, they would have human beings trying to solve that problem, wasting their time. You can build algorithms that can significantly solve those problems better than human beings.
And can I ask on that, because, and that ties back to what you were speaking about earlier too, but let's say with that and putting people doing the jobs that they're capable of doing, what's the feedback from people in terms of, yeah, you said, okay, they don't mind that, the company, they're on board with those people, but how does it affect morale and motivation? And do they feel like I get to do what I do best at work every day?
Yeah, you have to take people on a journey. And actually, there are 3 ways to allocate people to work. The one is you automatically allocate them. The other one is you give them a choice, saying, based on what we think you want to develop in terms of your career, these are the top things that we think you could do. Or you create a marketplace where people literally vote on what they want to do. We find the first one more optimized. But what you need to do as an organization is make sure that you're solving not just for one KPI, not just solving for utilization. You need to solve for career development and client continuity and all of those other KPIs that are important to you. What we find is actually people's experience of work is massively enriched. They're working on projects they want to do more, churn's reduced. This idea of building a digital twin gives them actually some form of empowerment, so they can see how people are making decisions based on how their digital twins are reacting. And it also takes away the bias, particularly in services companies. If you've got managers that choose the people that they want to work on the projects, that those managers or those partners are determining the career path of those people very early on. And that is fraught with bias. By taking the choice away from partners, from managers, and by giving it to the algorithm, you remove those biases. You can remove gender from the algorithms. You can remove all of those attributes that are fraught with bias.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I know if I hire someone, I want them to do really well, and I'm probably going to support that as much as possible. But that makes so much sense in terms of breaking down what are their skills and abilities and are they in the right role. I love that. Okay, you said it's 6. What's the 6th one?
Years ago, I'd be talking about cybernetics, exoskeletons, how we can augment ourselves, both in the physical world and the digital world. So again, there's a concept of building digital twins of you in the metaverse. So your digital representation would be fed on all of the digital footprint that you're creating. And that is linked to this idea of an employee's digital twin and using that to augment decisions for you. So this is not making decisions for you, it's augmented decision making or augmenting your abilities.
Okay. Have I got these 6 categories right? For anybody listening, get your pen and notepad out. So we're talking task automation, content generation, human representation, insight extraction, complex decision-making, and augmented decision-making.
The reason why I like them is because each one of them raises different ethical, social, safety challenges. The questions that you need to ask yourself when implementing task automation are very different when creating digital twins of employees, where you can identify secret lovers and people who are going to leave the company before they know they're going to leave the company. So this framework is a really nice framework to navigate how to apply the right technologies, the right approaches to solving frictions in business.
Okay, so let's imagine I'm a solopreneur. I'm in that space where I'm at the tipping point. I need to hire people now. What should I do when it comes to AI to help me build and grow my business? What's the starting point?
I spend a lot of time thinking about organizational design and not creating the kind of traditional structures that most organizations create, but that actually has become IP that we sell and develop for organizations. Actually, I wouldn't advise people to really think about that stuff. If you're trying to grow a business, then I would probably grow the business more traditionally. But there's a number of kind of books out there that can inspire you to create a little bit more liquid type organizations. Most of the deficiencies, if I'm honest, that exist in businesses come from the deficiencies of the leadership. So my advice to people is, where you think that there are problems in your organization, they probably manifest from you. And the best thing you can do is to invest in yourself, your personal development, creating a safe environment for feedback, particularly for yourself, to ensure that you're not propagating challenges, its dysfunctions across your organization. So in investing, every time there's a problem in my company, I assume that it stems from me. In terms of hiring people, making sure that they're the right fit, I think it's a really hard problem to solve. I think the best thing to do is to have people work in your company for a while to see if they're a best fit. But that, obviously, we don't have the luxury of being able to do that. But that, I think, is an unsolved problem. Maybe in the future we'll have our digital avatars and we will simulate how people work in our companies to see if they're a good fit, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, and let's say I'm an established business, Daniel, and I have maybe 10 or 15 employees. Is now the right time to start looking at integrating some of those 6 AI options?
I think it's really healthy for any organization to maintain a backlog of frictions that they have in their organization, whether they be internal processes or part of their business model or how the workforce operates, and be pragmatic about what is the right approach to solve that problem. It might be not technology, it might be not AI, it might be adopting Agile and Scrum, it might be buying in a piece of software like Jira to do project management. I think that don't just jump to AI as a solution. Identify your frictions, get advice, expertise to make sure that you're understanding how to solve those frictions. And then my advice is to try to build reusable capability over time. Now, that's not easy or a luxury for most companies, but try to build reusable data, maybe even reusable AI modules over time. So let me give you an example. If you're giving feedback, if you're creating a feedback mechanism or a career development mechanism or a salary setting or a resourcing mechanism, each one of those different things require you to understand people's skills. And so you could build a skills module that could then feed into those different applications. I wouldn't advise companies to invest heavily in this. There's lots of great tools out there that can start to do that now. I think invest in your business model, making that as differentiated as possible, and let other companies essentially commoditize the productivity element.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Daniel, that has been so insightful. I'm like, I have tons of questions to ask you, but I know you're caught for time. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Only that I think that it's really important for companies to have not just a strong business model, but a purpose. And if they want to differentiate themselves in the future, to be able to attract customers, to be able to attract talent, I would try to have a purpose, and I'd try to demonstrate that the things that you do achieve that purpose. And I'd be shouting loudly about it, because people will vote with their feet. Customers will buy from companies that have a purpose. Talent will work for companies that want to do good things in the world. And actually, I believe it's the collective purpose of enterprise that will actually make the world better. So yeah, have a strong purpose and try to make sure that you're architecting your values, your organization around achieving that purpose.
Oh my gosh, you were totally talking my language there. And I think a great example of that is Patagonia in the past year, where they're really striving to make a difference in terms of the world's climate and environment, and doing so much good stuff in terms of the donation of all of the profits of the business. Yeah, purpose. Who's not going to buy Patagonia stuff going forward, right?
Patagonia, a big company, but I guess starting a company and growing a company, particularly around 10, 20, 30, 40 people, that's a difficult time. It's a really difficult time in an entrepreneur's life cycle. And I guess what will get you out of bed in the morning is that purpose. I think life would be easier if you didn't have employees and customers, but it is a challenging period. But that purpose is what usually keeps people going.
Amazing. Daniel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Wow, folks, my mind is blown. There you have it for today's episode. Between you and me, I still don't really know if that was actually Daniel we've just heard from, but if not, his avatar was fairly on point, right? And digital twins, well, you heard it here first in the Master Your Business podcast. That's all I can say. We've journeyed through the revolutionary realm of AI. Like, ChatGPT is nothing compared to what Daniel's been talking about on the show today. He's talked about exploring how it changes your business operations for the better, including the culture. So a heartfelt thank you to our incredible guest, Daniel Hulme, for illuminating the pathways through which AI is revolutionizing workplaces. From his concepts of AI-driven work allocation and creating digital employee twins to his passion for overcoming organizational changes, Daniel has truly inspired me to reimagine my business, and I hope you've taken some inspiration from his talk today as well. So as we conclude, let's remember Daniel's emphasis on the importance of having a strong purpose in your business. That purpose is like a beacon. That beacon should be magnetic and attract your customers, talent, and ultimately make the world a better place. Let's strive to be architects of our values and businesses which are ultimately founded on your brand's purpose. If you found today's episode to be of value, please do us a favor. Give us a rating, a review, and subscribe to the Master Your Business podcast. Your feedback fuels our journey deeper into the world of business mastery. So until next time, keep mastering your business.